it worth it? Is it for the future? The family. I want more. I want freedom. I'm purpose driven for equality. You're gonna know my name. I'm still the same. Ain't nothing changed. You're gonna know I am good. Respect me and my legacy. And I wish you would Google me, read my story. You're gonna know my name.
Welcome to the Face Behind the Brand.
Thank you.
Episode 134. Hope everybody's doing good tonight. Have some incredible artists with us tonight. From the Bay Area. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to the Face Behind the Brand. I am so excited. I am excited to see two faces on here tonight. I am, of course, your host, Monique Marie, and you two are the incredible musicians. Of course, we have to start there. Creative minds, okay? Pop musicians, vocal performer and keyboardist, Joshua Mash, and progressive guitarist, Philip Pope. And together, you are SILAS FERMOY.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's us. Thank you.
I had to bring you in like that. That is who you are. So welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm also bringing you into one of your incredible sounds that I, of course, enjoy. Your latest release, Just a Stone.
Thank you.
Have to let everybody know this is available now on all platforms. Created by these two incredible geniuses among them. So I'm not going to play the whole sound, but I'm going to play just a little bit of it so everybody can run and stream and run it up. But this right here is Just a Stone by SILAS FERMOY. I love this song, by the way.
Thank you.
Where was this recorded?
This was a mix of our home studio, a studio that's now actually closed down, called Greenhouse Recording Studios in Petaluma. And then our producer, Jason Cummings, out of New York, primarily produced out of the Cutting Room Studios out there and his home. And then we had a drummer in Philadelphia who is the last drummer. He's drummed in the last two tracks of ours. And so the song got sent around a bunch of different places and eventually came back to us.
Super dope. I love it.
Thank you so much.
But like I said, I'm not going to play the entire song. I'll let you guys talk a little bit more about it. But welcome to the Face Behind the Brand. How was your day today? We'll start with Philip.
Day was great. Actually got to hang out with Josh's son today. And we had a, housewarming party with me and my fiance, and invited some friends and family over to hang out. Josh and his fiance were able to stay, and we were, had a nice barbecue yesterday and hung out some today. Went to the dog park.
Oh my God.
Very fun day.
Yeah.
Busy Sunday.
If we didn't have to beat traffic back, we were contemplating doing the interview just from Phil's house, because he's in Sacramento, I'm in Santa Rosa, so it's like a 2 to 3 hour drive. So yeah, we woke up a little hungover. Had a big old Southern breakfast to try and get over there. Then went to the dog park and just stood there in the sweltering heat for a few hours.
Too funny. Well, I know all about it. I used to live up in Sac. I miss it, but then again, I don't. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't miss the heat. And I don't miss the drive. Like, it seems like it's so far from the bay, but it's not that far, So
Yeah.
so let's get into it. Two creative minds. I discovered you, and let me give a shout out first, of course, because I would have never discovered you if I wasn't out that night with Sam Ree, of course, another Bay Area recording artist.
Sam Ree.
And of course, shout out to Sam Ree, and shout out to Christopher Kenji, because we were coming to see Chris, and then of course, shame on us, we were a little late. But that's what happened. We got a chance to see, of course, SILAS FERMOY, and of course, we got to see Chris performing with you. So shout out to the both of those amazing artists.
Shouts out.
But take me into how you two met. I know you're from New York, correct, Josh?
No, I'm actually originally from London, England.
Originally from London.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
And then by way of New York, I should say.
Exactly, yeah. By way of New York / Santa Rosa.
Okay.
I initially moved from London to California when I was 16, just turned 16, to try and get to know my dad better. My dad was this elusive figure in my life, and I had only ever really, I had met him a few times, but I'd only really, they weren't, memories that stuck. And so I really wanted to get to know this man. And he invited me out to come and stay with him in a little town called Occidental, just west of Santa Rosa. So I moved out there, and from there went to the Santa Rosa Junior College, studied music, studied acting. And then a friend of mine invited me out to New York after about 4 years. A friend I'd met in the acting department out here. And so I went and moved to Harlem first, and then from Harlem to Brooklyn, and just slowly, I was originally playing guitar, and then I slowly transitioned into keyboards. And then after 8 years of being there and having this project, probably for the last 3 years I was there, I moved back to California. And I think before I left New York, I threw an ad up on Craigslist.
Oh, wow.
To meet musicians, and immediately met Phil. We were talking as I was driving in the U-Haul across country, and I think it was day 2 of getting here. Day 1, pulled in the U-Haul, unpacked everything into my dad's place. Day 2, rehearsal with Phil and 2 other musicians.
Incredible.
7 years later.
Yeah, geez.
7, right? God, 7 years. Yeah.
And where are you originally from, Philip?
I'm from the South Bay originally, San Carlos, Redwood City area.
I know that. Yes.
Yeah, and when I was in like 6th grade, moved up to Sonoma County, and then I've kind of been Northern California, North Bay for a while. Went to school in Chico, came back, and then after being in Sonoma County for a while after graduating from school, eventually met Josh through Craigslist after trying to just find trying to get into a group, really wanted to play music, really wanted to get into something, and saw his ad. And, this post of, hey, I'm moving from New York. I want to continue this indie band I'm in, this indie pop band. And it was like all the things I'd wanted that I couldn't find in Sonoma County at the time. It was like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
And, they, showed up hoping for the best. And like Josh said, 7 some odd years later, still making music together. We've come so far. It's been a heck of a journey.
Not just as musicians, but as friends. I mean, Phil is literally
absolutely.
Yeah,
I was just
Phil is literally gonna be the person that marries me and my fiance. So
no pressure.
The energy is so important, and of course, we'll talk about that tonight because I'm big on that. Energy is definitely important when it comes to this business. You two know that. So just being able to connect, and especially via Craigslist, I mean, the odds of getting, for one, 2 sane people
yeah, well, I mean,
like-minded.
I think from there we've had a lot of rough tracks.
I was gonna say, let's be real.
We've looked on Craigslist and had some weird situations.
Boy.
Weird auditions, but it worked really well once, and that's all you can hope for. So,
well, let me ask you this, Philip. Who in the family has this background? Is there anyone where this talent comes from? Is this drive for music or music theory?
Well, no, not anywhere specifically that has pursued it to the level I have.
Okay.
But my mom is my mom is really into like family genealogy and like just keeping in touch with like distant like second cousins, like really trying to figure all that stuff out. And I always knew that like a lot of my uncles and my aunts and everything, they all took lessons, but it turns out, and my uncle Phil was like pretty talented, but ended up going into physics, like was offered to like do classical guitar in San Francisco, but he's like, no, I'm going to be a physics guy. So like definite. And as she's looked more into genealogy, she's found like a bunch of those cases. So it's like, I have this weird sprinkling of like people with music in their background, but no one really like ran with it as much as I've tried to run with it. But it seems like my family's always been like encouraging the music and never looked down on it. Just no one has been crazy as I am to be like, I'm going to do this all the time.
Yeah, and go all the way. So Josh, what about you? I know, of course, we know you were the vocalist and keyboardist. Where does this come from?
My dad, I would say, primarily. My dad is a retired musician. He's been in many bands in the years. His most successful band was called Red Express.
Wow.
They actually just he flew back a few years ago to like record some tracks with them, and he actually just told me the other day that a record label in England is picking that up to re-release their stuff, which is really incredible. But yeah, he still to date inspires me. Just the guy has an incredible voice. He grew up singing in his church choir in Southside Chicago. So his whole family, I mean, when they get together, it's just, vocals for days, and it just harmonies just come out of them like they're just, making breakfast. It's incredible. So it definitely comes from my dad. He was a touring musician for the better part of his life. And that being said, my dad is my biggest critic. I can very, very rarely bring him to a show without him saying, vocals higher, music lower. I'm like, this ain't the 60s, Dad. This is Otis Redding, I'm not signed to Motown. It's a very different sound.
I was just gonna say.
So it comes from my dad. And he taught me to play my first guitar. This is actually my first guitar. He bought me when I was 16. Incredible. Moved out to California, and he went and bought me this guitar, and it's held up. And although I don't play guitar as my main instrument, it's been an interesting ride. Definitely, we're not getting off anytime soon. But yeah, it comes from my dad. My mom was a social worker, and she was a lover of music. So she met my dad. I think she met my dad at a show. She's been known to tell me numerous times throughout my life that Jimi Hendrix could have been my dad because,
oh my God,
because she hugged him getting off stage, and she's like, if Jimi Hendrix ever hugged me back, so I might have had a different musical path. But yeah, my dad is the musician. I think I've had some other musicians from his side of the family. It just kind of runs in that side for sure.
Yeah, well, I love that. Like I said, when I first heard your sound, I was really blown away. I mean, obviously, I hear so many different sounds. Obviously, and even being an artist to another artist, I just, that ear. You have that ear, and it's not an ear that is just listening for music. It's listening for good music, and I can honestly say, like, you guys are incredible.
Thank you.
And you probably, I think, Joshua, when you guys were packing up, I felt like a teenager. I was like, oh my God.
I appreciate the hell out of that, Monique. It's not like, and I, sometimes I feel awkward because I feel I've just sang for however long before that. I belted and everything. So I'm trying to like savor my voice sometimes. And if someone comes up, the music's blaring, and I'm trying to say, thank you as much as possible. I'm trying to stay around. I would love to chat to you too. but I think we had a really unique situation in that me and my bass player Mike stayed, and so we actually got to hang out with you in Samri. Phil had to go home; he had that long drive back to Sacramento. But I love that. I love that when I actually get to go outside with someone and speak where the music's no longer playing and get their backstory. And you and Samri are both incredibly interesting, and so it was great to just meet you, and it's such a cool setting too. The Makeout Room is an amazing venue.
Incredible. I mean, just the sound in itself. But I mean, again, you guys, you mesh, right? And I talk about this, how important it is to get each other. You know what I'm saying? And to to be able to like make one sound. And I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, because of course it's two of you, and then of course when you have your drummer, it's three of you, and then everybody has to be in unison. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So talk about how important that is as far as just practicing and rehearsing, because I work with the band myself, and we talk big time about how rehearsals and practice and obviously productivity is obviously when rehearsing, when it comes to a band. And either of you can take this question.
Phil, I'll let you take it.
Well, I think, a lot of it we've learned a lot being together and practicing and trying to take this seriously. Rehearsal, it's you practice at home, you rehearse together. Yes. So a big thing is learning, do your drills, learn the song, practice the things you need to practice, so that when everybody gets together, it can be super productive. Yeah. You don't come in knowing your changes. If we're changing something or figuring something out, we'll have a conversation. But I think that was something that both Josh and I got to learn, and was a really big piece of us starting to really, I think, elevate the sound. Is really treating this more like a job. Like, we've got our stuff, our homework at home that we work on, and then it's practicing, getting the stage presence, getting the song right, making the transitions, making sure everything sounds right. And I also think one thing that attributes to our cohesion as sound wise is, as me and Josh started working together, we almost learned to write around each other, if that makes sense. I think one thing we really learned is there's only so much audio that you can hear out of a speaker at a certain time. So we all need to make sure that everyone's got their spot in that frequency. Our bass player's down here, Josh's keyboards are here, my guitar's here. Well, we try to make sure, one thing we do a lot is we'll be at a song, it's like, we're all too bassy. Let's change our parts a little bit. So we've learned at this sound that we don't want to step on each other's toes. We want to give each other a lot of room. I've changed how I write guitar parts since I've worked with Josh, who's a wonderful keyboard player, using big old synthesizer sounds that take up a lot of space. Gives me the room to write some really cool little weird stuff with reverb and delays, and really add something on top of what he's already doing. So I think that's also something that's really helped us kind of bring a tighter sound, learning the practice, but also writing for each other and appropriately for the project of what we're trying to do.
Absolutely. Well, you're doing a damn good job at it.
Thank you.
Delivery. Listen, I mean, look what it developed into. I was like, excuse me, I'm going to interview you guys. Thank you.
Yes. It's taken. We're not the same musicians or band that we started with when we first met each other. Like Phil said, learning how to slot in where we're at frequency wise. And I think, I don't know, it's taught us to listen. I feel like we're much better listeners as people. Yes. To be able to go into rehearsal and have someone talk and really take in what they're trying to say. I feel I'm hearing this, dropping your ego enough to wonder and understand, is this person correct? The amount of times Phil has said, your key's there, something's, and I think 7 years ago, my response would be, well, your guitar there, but over the years, it's been, oh, you're right. I trust this person enough to know that they're catching something that they're hearing, And we're incredibly lucky that we work with a producer in New York, Jason, who I've known, he worked on a project that I had before I even met Phil. And Jason is just very upfront, and he's able to come in and say, Josh, your vocals there, yeah, the melodies off or something, and
this key note isn't right. The chord
exactly.
progression, like you should change to this chord, or this
Incredible.
guitar riff is like way too much. Like you should get out of the way. Like anything that is for the song, for the for the composition.
The song before the song before anything else is, I think, our underlining motto, and Jason has kind of somewhat implemented that into us, unconsciously. And he, Justice Stone is a perfect example. I mean, he is responsible for one of the chord changes in the chorus. It was initially a completely different chord, and he said it just doesn't settle when it comes down. You want to settle going back into the verse. And we wrote that song, and he was the one that wrote the keyboard part in the very beginning of the song. That real alien-esque keyboard part that, when he sent it back to us, and my initial response was, man, that's a lot, but Phil turned around and was like, no, it's perfect. I mean,
it's perfect, and it's a big sound. Is it not? I mean, I just feel like, what? Because I love all types of music. I mean, I'm a hip hop head, but I'm really big on pop. Obviously R&B, gospel, just everything, just anything that it sounds amazing. And I think go backwards, because I'm always one to say, speaking of the sound, obviously, when it comes to the evolution, very important for me to discuss this because it's important. But if I go back to 2013, right? Chapters, is it correct?
Yeah.
Okay. If I was to go all the way back to 2013, of course, and then of course talk about now to 2022, there's so much that has happened. But what would you say is the difference between, of course, and where have you evolved when it comes to your sound? When I compare Chapters in 2013 to Just a Stone, where we are today in 2022.
Probably three things. I know these three things because Chapters, I look back at that regularly, and vocally, because I blew my voice out touring with Chapters. I had not found my voice yet, and I was trying to sing in a style that just wasn't me. And so I've softened things quite a bit since Chapters. I'll go falsetto in songs like Nighttime, Our Time when I need to, but Chapters, I was trying to do this rock, grungy, belty thing. And I mean, I'll still belt during live shows, but not in that way. And so over Chapters, vocally, I've changed, and there have been many different vocal classes I've gone through in order to get there and understand that the sound can be big. I do not need to be big in order to keep the sound big, Exactly. So that's the first one. The second one is classical piano. The song Nighttime, Our Time is all about the fact that I was not raised by my father. I was raised by my mom. And if I was raised by my father, I don't think he would have necessarily told me this. And I say that in the song, but nobody really told me that I needed to work at music. I just kind of jumped into it with my guitar in New York, running around to different open mics and having as much fun as possible. And no one really took me aside and said, okay, but you really need to learn the A, B's, and C's of this in order to make it a job, make it work for you. And it was years later, meeting Phil, where I realized I need, I can play keys just about, I can sing just about. I need to learn all the nuances, and I need to do the boring work of waking up and spending an hour every day learning, music theory and classical music. And so the second thing is the training, the classical training, it took to just become a better musician, as I think it would take to become a better anything in life. You should never stop learning, and I didn't understand that when I was younger making music. And then the third thing is Phil. Meeting Phil, Phil inspired me to become a better musician, but also, and I have other musician friends in New York who are a testament to this. After they heard some of our first recordings, they emailed me and said, so you found your reverb guitarist? Because I came out to California, I wanted a guitarist that spent just as much time on his pedals and his atmospheric sound as he did his guitar playing. And that's Phil in a nutshell. If you've seen his pedal board, it looks like he's traveled the world and come right back. So
I bring my own DIY computer on stage for every
exactly.
You guys
every
are
gig.
massive.
It's very heavy.
Look at these guys,
Yeah,
like
and so
watching you.
that's when I look at Chapters, I went into the recording of that EP wanting to be as loud as possible, as live as possible. I remember telling the sound engineer at the time, and I feel bad about this because I knew nothing about recording. And I remember just telling, when he sent back the first mixes, I just said it doesn't sound that great. I need it to sound more live. I want more cymbals and everything.
Yeah.
And I wish in that moment, and it's not his job to tell me this, but I wish in that moment he or somebody else had told me, no, listen to some other stuff. Like you don't, that's not what you want in this moment. Live, you want that big, but when you're recording, you want to bring it down to these frequencies that are, able to be appreciated. And I just didn't get that in that moment. So Chapters is the learning experience. If you listen to that EP, you can hear where I am learning vocally, I'm learning, musically, I'm learning egotistically, just everything.
Yeah. Philip, I guess I can ask you this question. Of course, you just talked about, or Josh just talked about some of the qualities and skills one needs to obviously be able to work when it comes to a team, a music team. So we do know some of your strengths. Tell me, of course, some of the weaknesses that can come with obviously being a musician as a band.
So me personally, what are my personal weaknesses?
You can tell me. I could say your weaknesses.
Okay.
I know your strengths. So what is one of your weaknesses, or what could it possibly be as far as a weakness when it comes to being a musician as a band, and not just obviously a solo artist? As you see me, I'm like solo, even though I work with a band. But what are some of the weaknesses that one can deal with, or you can share if you want to share with us a weakness?
No, totally. I think, as soon as I say weaknesses, I think all the things I go to think of are the management stuff of the band. Like me and Josh always joke about that. Like, you don't think about when you pick up a guitar that I can't wait till I learn Photoshop to make a flyer so people can see me do this,
Look,
so
who are you telling?
So when I think of weaknesses, I guess I think of all the things that I do. In regards to this band where it's man, I'm bad about remembering to email people sometimes.
Yeah.
And, I'm a musician. We're not known for being always the perfectest people. We play music. We are creative. We're ones to just think about how can I play these notes until they sound really good, and then record it and obsess over it.
Yeah.
So I would say the business end of it has been harder, and has been the work of how do I make this a wonderful hobby, this thing I love to do? How do I make it my job? And it's the job part of it. So that's all stuff that, it's social media and the timeliness of it and having to do it all the time and the frequency and the regularity. So it's been a learning experience. All these, it's almost like running a business. It is like running a business, but our product is music and image versus a specific we make a shirt, we make a this. No, we sell a vibe, we sell a package.
Yes.
So that has been, I think, where I run into the most weakness, which has been, it's been really fun learning a lot of these things as much as it is frustrating. I love all the little technical things I've picked up, all the little graphic design things. Those work with my brain the best. The dive in for several hours and come out with hey, I made a video, or hey, I made a this. But I think the logistical end of things of running a band are probably my biggest weakness.
And that's to be, of course, like you said, with any, of course, a part of course, the business, when learning things, you're forced to wear many hats. And you know, and it's nothing wrong with things. I think we will thank ourselves later. We've saved a lot of money.
So much money.
Yeah, and we've saved a lot of money. So
and we saved a lot of money.
and we saved a lot of money. But I think when it gets to a point, I guess I've heard someone say the other day, well, you know, if it's something that you're doing that you're able to do everything, then it's not big enough yet. You know, so obviously if you are having to reach out and say, listen, I need to delegate some of this to other people, then you know it's becoming greater than yourself. Or greater than you two, or greater than you three. But thank you for that answer, Philip. Josh, this question is for you.
Sure.
How do you deal with performance anxiety, or what is your process if you ever had to deal with?
It used to be alcohol. it used to be 2 to 3 beers before getting on stage, and a beer I think is still okay, but I don't get performance anxiety anymore in general.
Yeah, you're very relaxed. I know when you're just like, you know, going.
I think
Confident.
the only time I will get anxious, as Phil can attest to, and you may have caught this at the Makeout Room gig, is when something technical starts to go wrong. So I think, Phil, something had happened with your pedals, or your power source at the Makeout Room gig. Am I right in saying that? Was the buzz?
No, that was the Golden Bowl gig.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
So then never mind. No, the Makeout Room gig was probably like one of the best I've felt in a long time. But yeah, you know, we had a gig recently in Santa Rosa, where my mic cable, something was up with the mic cable, and vocals were just cutting out in and out of songs. And therefore I kept messing up keyboard parts because I'm trying to fix this thing. And so those are the times, and I won't even say I get anxious. You just have to, know to rely on your performance in that moment. So I just had to keep singing into this mic that was cutting in and out, and we're not at the stage yet where you have someone running onto the stage to help you with that. It's all you.
It's all you.
But no, it's interesting you say that, because I really haven't felt performance anxiety in a little while. And I think it's just because we feel really good together. We feel really tight. It's very different. We've had a few shows where our drummer has had to back out last minute, and we've had to bring in another drummer who has learned the songs like, you know, a week before. And you've had no rehearsals with that person. And I can't even say that was performance anxiety that I had. That was just life anxiety.
That was just a stressful one. That was a new one for us.
That was very, but I feel really, really good with us right now. And, you know, you go through ups and downs in that. You know, speak to me a year ago, and we might not have been as rehearsed as we are, but I think as long as we do our drills, Phil said it earlier, like before a show, the whole week before a show, my whole regimen changes. I'm not really working out. I'm not really doing all the things that I regularly do after work. I'm coming home, I'm drilling the songs. I'm also drilling the parts of those songs that I've had hiccups with before. And then when we go into a show, we feel confident, and that is also just a mutual respect thing for the whole band. Like, we have learned that we do that as much for ourselves individually as for each other. You know, it would be you would get that same anxiety if you went on stage and you felt well rehearsed and there were 2 other band members that hadn't done that. So I think we're in a really good place where we know what we need to do to stay tight. We know what it feels like on stage when we're not tight, and we don't ever want to feel that. And so
absolutely. Well, this is during the time of the show, of course, where I have wordplay, of course, being that you are songwriters and you, of course, make music and sounds and lyrics and put things together poetically. No wrong or right to these words. It's just I'm going to say a few of them to both of you. And then you just tell me what's the first thing you think of when I say this word. You ready?
Yes.
I'll start with you, Philip. Inspiration.
Inspiration. I guess the thing I think of first is getting lost in music. I feel like I know I'm being inspired where all of a sudden I've been like deep in like writing a new part or following up on a sound or coming up with something and it's like, oh, it's been an hour. It's dark in my house. I have to go turn on lights. I should eat something. So I love inspiration. Obviously we're all searching for inspiration, but my favorite form is when you just get lost in it, whatever it is. It's a set of images you're editing or a song or a drill you just really like doing. That's like, oh, this is really fun.
Yeah.
And, just getting lost in it. Being someone that has borderline ADD, diagnosed as a child, popping in and out of things attention wise has always been tough for me. So that was one thing that drew me to music early on, is it was kind of like all encompassing for my brain. It's just like, oh, I can latch onto this for hours at a time and, not lose focus, which is, the flip side of ADD. It's the laser focus that comes with the inattentiveness, the bopping between things until you find one.
Well, I'm sure the music is definitely healing and therapeutic, is it not?
Oh, yes. Oh, so much so. It's very calming.
Yeah. Someone told me one day, you can't heal yourself. I'm like, maybe you can't heal yourself, but I'm like, I'm a singer. What are you talking about? But when you tap in and
instrument.
Yeah, when you tap in and tune in, you know what to do. It's like, I've been watching, I don't know if either one of you have seen it yet on Amazon Prime, Respect. The Aretha Franklin.
The Aretha Franklin. No, I haven't seen it yet. Is it good?
Oh my God. I've watched it like 5 times.
Oh man.
Okay.
Every night, honestly, that I can remember when I go to sleep to it. Like, and I fall asleep, like, oh my God, I missed that part. But you have to watch that movie. It's
going on the list.
Yeah, it's like she did very well. I mean, Jennifer Hudson, of course, is Aretha. It's dynamic.
Yeah, my God.
Okay, so Joshua, your word. Love.
Life.
Oh.
Come back here with another word, life. Yeah, I truly believe there are a few people out there that believe they have the secret to life, right? The answer, the reason why we're here. Some will tell you to procreate, some will tell you to experience. But I think love is just that one thing that you don't need language to explain, and it's been there since the dawn of time. It'll always be there.
Yeah.
And you can't explain why it's there, what it specifically is there for. You just feel that it's absolutely necessary. And it can be the love of a friend, a partner, the love of music, the love of art, the love of a specific scenery, a place you like to go. Just all love. And I think it's absolutely, I won't say but one of the meanings to life. And it's gonna sound really woo-woo, but it conquers a lot. So yeah.
I'm like all in. I'm like, oh, love conquers all.
Yeah. See, you said all. I didn't go as far as saying all. I wanted to hold back on that because I don't want to be held to that. There are some things that it might not be able to conquer. I haven't experienced that. I have experienced that when love is present, beautiful things can happen.
Beautiful things happen.
Yeah, I have to consistently remind myself of that. So yeah.
Look, I love that. and it's funny because the thing is, I was saying this the other day, and spiritually speaking, there's so many great things, hope, faith, but of course, as we know, love, of course, is the greatest, of all things. So I'll stay with you for a second, Josh. Another word for you, making this hard for you, huh? Since you want to be I was going to say like the poet, himself, of course, the lyricist and the melodic person. I was going to say melodic, but that's too easy. So I'll say courage.
Courage.
Yes. What comes to mind when I say courage to you?
Ego.
Ooh.
I think, yeah. So it's something I've
Interesting.
dealt with quite a bit recently. Is I think your ego will tell you when you are. Your ego will try and keep you on a path that might not necessarily need to be stayed on. And the ego will say, but you've been on this path for your whole life. You've done this, and there's, and I think it takes real courage to accept that the path might veer ever so slightly, that the path might end and a new path opens up, and you need to take that. I think it takes anyone real courage to decide that they will not listen to ego, and they will move forward with the courage to go into the unknown. And I think that applies to a lot. I specifically am referring to music. Phil and I have had to, specifically during the pandemic, look at our overall package and understand that in order to continue to enjoy this, we would probably have to have the courage to accept that this might not go in the direction that we had hoped for originally. And I think that is okay, and a very, very good place to be mentally in anything, let alone music. And it takes me, it's an ongoing thing, and it takes me courage every day to understand that in order to love playing music, it needs to be about the love of playing music first, and nothing else first. The rest of it comes, but it has to be about the love of playing music first. You have to be there to enjoy being on stage with one of your best friends and your band, and the rest can be there, and it needs the work, and it needs the attention to detail, and the sitting down, and the tedious hours of getting yourself out there and everything. But when we started this project, my initial look at the path was very different to how I look at it now, and it took courage in order to tamp down the ego's voice and be okay with where we are. Is the super long answer to that question. So,
you're very profound, of course, and you take your time with answers, which I can appreciate. I feel like I'm sitting here with Shakespeare or Hamlet or something.
I appreciate that. That's high praise. That's high praise.
Okay, Philip, you ready for yours?
Yes.
Journey.
So, I mean, right now, I mean, just life. I think me and Josh are both in somewhat similar places. We're kind of moving forward with relationship things. We've both gotten engaged within the last couple months.
Amazing.
Over the last couple years, we've had to really reevaluate, like, what is this band? How are we accomplishing what we want out of it? Like, what are these steps? What can we give? What don't we need to give to this band? And, just this journey that we've both been on in our lives and with the band and personally, learning so much about ourselves, how to communicate with each other about anything from, like, I need help with like something in the band, or that part isn't working, or, hey, like, I'm as a friend, I need some help right now. Like, it's been, we got together started working together in our late 20s, and going from your late 20s to your late 30s is hell of a journey. You learn a lot.
Absolutely.
So it's been fun to have a, co-chair and friend and brother to go along with so much of our lives, to have these, corresponding like musical journeys and life journeys where we're kind of together on this has been, really, really profound and beautiful. So, I can't help but think of the journey we've both been on, where I'm at currently, and, where we're headed.
Yeah, and where you're headed. And you're definitely going all the way up to the top. So
thank you. That's the plan.
Congratulations in advance, I should say. And congratulations to both of you on, the engagements, the new homes, just a lot of blessings. A lot of blessings happening.
Thank you.
Going back to the music, nighttime, hour time. Talk to me about that process, because I know that sound was created coming out of pandemic, correct?
I was in the middle of the pandemic. Yeah. So yeah, that song is like a cornerstone in my mind mentally, because when I started the project in New York, I want to say 10 years before that, something like that, I had started writing the stuff in my bedroom, and then I would bring it to the band, we'd work on it, and then we'd play it. And over the years, I started doing that less and less, and just starting with chord progressions and writing the bones of a song on piano or on my synth, and then bringing that to the band, and the band would put all the rest together. And when I met Phil, we did that for the first few years, and then the pandemic forced us to go back into the home studio, the bedroom, so to speak. And we were forced to write the way I had started writing over a decade before. And this sound came out of it. I wrote that drum part, I wrote that bass part, I wrote the key part, and then Phil came over and he laid down that guitar lick. And then we sent it to Jason. I wrote the vocals and I sent it to Jason, and he had one note, and it was, you're singing the chorus in full voice, and I think you should come down into falsetto so that the harmonies mesh better. And just the way it turned out, it sparked something in us, and it told us, go back to basics. We've been doing it a little too complicated over the years, just only writing the bones at home and bringing it into a rehearsal studio to flesh out. We work, I think, much better with much more attention to detail and melody and feel when we write at home and we put the flesh on the bones together. And then more often than not, we send it to New York, and Jason, if we put the bones and the flesh together, Jason, touches up the hair and puts the right clothes on this, being that we've created. And so that's kind of how that happened. It was completely by accident that we started doing it from home, and right after we got the finished product, it was like, this is how we're going to be writing from now on.
Incredible.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. Go for it.
I was going to say, like Josh had said, was this song was the corners, like the pinnacle of like a total reimagining of how we did things.
Yeah.
Wow.
Coming from this was the first song that we got out after, we had an EP we'd been working on for like 3 years, 6 songs we poured our heart and soul into. Always Greener was that project, or that release. And we released it the day everything shut down, or we had a show, we had a release party on March 20th, 2020, and the world shut down on the 19th or the 18th or something like that. And it was it's just nothing. It was beyond the wind out of your sails. We had the wind knocked out of us.
Jesus.
3-4 years of heart and soul. It comes out, the gig is canceled. There's nothing we can really do. Everything we've worked on as far as we're a gigging band, we've got a set to play shows. We were built around the band. We were always finding new members. And after so much struggle of keeping a drummer around, finding a bass player, having new people learn new parts, to have all of that work just taken away, Jesus. it was depressing, it was rough, and we kind of reconvened, and like this was one of like we slowly got back to like, well, let's like write some music, and we started working on a handful of songs, and we got a few with some bones on it, like this being one of them. We kind of started doing this like, well, let's just write everything, the bass, the drums, the harmonies, like let's do everything we can and then send it to our producer. And we built a couple, we sent them to some friends, Nighttime Our Time being one of them, and that one people connected with. So it helped us kind of run with this new idea of like, let's be more like, let's craft more in the studio, let's not focus so much on this live sound, let's like, it's all we can do, so let's get more songs out, let's keep creating and learn from everything we just learned in our last album. Like, I don't want to just not take that. So
that goes back to what you were saying, Monique. The courage to the courage to look at our last project and see what we had done wrong. It took damn near the whole pandemic for us to like accept, okay, we could have done this differently. We could have done that differently. And we poured all of that into Nighttime Our Time, pretty much.
It's incredible. Well, you know that it's obviously it's not a coincidence. I mean, the whole world literally had the opportunity to do a whole lot. You know, it was like you were forced to reflect, evaluate, reevaluate, and then go back and do what you guys did, go back in again. And so if you know, and I wouldn't say it in any disrespectful way to anybody, but if you weren't able to realize that, like that moment was a shift, you know, for everybody. To be able, especially an artist, of course, you know, people of your caliber. I mean, because like I said, I'm not, you know, I think I'm blessed enough to have a great ear. And my mom always used to tell me I have a taste for expensive things. I'm always reaching for things that are of value. So I say for you guys, and that's again a compliment, you guys are true value, of course, when it comes to what this.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, what this sound is needing and what this industry needs when it comes to a band like this. So
thank you.
You have performed at quite a few places. You guys were, of course, pre-pandemic. Talk to me about South by Southwest.
South by Southwest was actually before I met Phil. That was with the project. And honestly, you can't even call it the same project. You know, we would have changed the name by now if if we didn't already have traction with that name. So you've heard Chapters. Chapters was the EP that we toured South by Southwest with. Not much to say about South by Southwest. It was a great experience to be around all of those musicians.
Yes,
that's pretty much it. It's a musician's playground. It's a musician's Disney World, pretty much. Just to see all of the stores on one street turned into venues, and every store you walk by, there is a band playing in. That was incredible. Apart from that, it didn't do much for us as a band, and honestly, I can't blame that on South by Southwest, because I don't think Chapters was a very good EP. I don't think it was very good songwriting wise. I think there was some seeds in there, but nothing that was watered correctly, nothing that was tended to correctly. And all the Chapters was a learning experience. It was the jumping off point. And so touring South by Southwest with that EP, I couldn't expect anything from that, really. But the actual experience as a fan, a music fan, was beautiful. And I'd love to do that again one day.
Absolutely.
We'll get there. We're going to do it. We'll get there.
That's right. Speaking into existence, Always Greener comes to mind. Is the grass always greener? Philip, why don't you talk about Always Greener? Process.
I mean, Always Greener was that was the first project that we wrote once I joined. So that was, me and Josh started learning to write together. That was the first project that I'd been in where I don't know, like where I synced up really well with the singer. Like, you know, you have so many bands where you're just like, oh, we're close, but like we're kind of butting heads a little bit. It
Yeah.
was nice to finally find someone where like, you know, we were still young, we were still new, and we were still trying to figure out our egos as far as like how to, you know, take yourself out of an equation. But like that was where all of a sudden it's like, oh, you are referencing stuff I really like. Like
Yeah.
if you're going for that, that's good. Like maybe it's not identical to what I want, but like it was really fun to find a band where it's like, I loved effects. I like making weird sounds. A lot of guitar players that I was into as a kid did that for whatever reason. You know, you know, I love shred guys. I love guys that play real fast. I love Jimmy Page, Led Zeppelin, stuff like that. But as a kid, for whatever reason, I was just like, I don't think I'll ever play that fast.
Yeah.
So I was always drawn to guitar players that made weird sounds or were more creative with the instrument. And, you know, started with like Tom Morello out of Rage Against the Machines. He made a bunch of just weird sounds, not always the best sounds, but really, you know, it
Different.
helped me. Yeah. And it's like, oh, you can still be a super famous musician if you just like take your guitar cable and you slap a string with it. Like he was doing weird stuff with pedals. So it helped me kind of figure out like, oh, it's not just the notes, it's all of it. It's what I play into the effect, into my amp, like how it comes out. Like there's a whole chain that creates like an atmosphere. And you know, finding a project where it's like, oh, like Josh has that caliber of like, he wants to do this, like he wants to put everything into this, I want to put everything into this, like let's try to write some songs and let's figure out how we do that together. And Always Greener was that. And Josh had more experience than I did as far as he'd had 2 previous albums. And I was learning how to make an album with him. He had a lot more experience, but we were also now learning in that album to work with a producer remotely. You know, we had a producer in New York that was extremely talented, but like, if you can't meet up with the guy and show him everything, it's a little tougher. Like, how do you hear the songs? How do we get notes? Like, where do we bring you in? Do we just record and send it to you? So like, there's a lot of learning in that. As you know, it being the first part of the project that I was involved in, I was so excited to get it out. It was so like, as much as there are things I wish we'd done different, I look at it with such reverence because it's like, oh, that's the first one I was part of. Like we helped, like that's and the things of just like finding the studio we're going to track in. I remember, I have fond memories of us going to San Francisco to tour Hyde Street Studios for that one of like, and like meeting the engineer, meeting the manager, like picking that venue, starting to record, finding a venue for studio for vocals, like, you know, even down to like making album art and submitting it to CD Baby and getting CDs printed. Like it was such a challenging and fun learning experience. And I feel like as me and Josh finished that project, I caught up with him and all the things where I'm like, oh, I wish we'd done all these things differently, you know? And,
process,
you know, but
I tell you, the process.
Yeah.
You know.
And, you know, we then synced up and kind of have changed our system a little bit, which I think, you know, those songs were, you know, as Josh has said, the band has evolved many times. I look at Josh's first albums before I joined as like the proto version. Like it's still Silas Fermoy, but like Josh is writing entirely on his own. Maybe he's got a producer helping, but there isn't that like, you know, it's helpful when you have 2 core people like driving the creativity, even if one person is doing more writing than the other, like having that extra hand, that extra energy in the band. So then we found each other, we learned how to write together, and now we're like, okay, now let's evolve, let's keep growing. So I love that album. I love the songs, but there's definitely a reverence of like, that was the first big one I've been a part of. And, you know, there's lots of things I wish I'd done differently or that we'd learned from, but at the same time, like, I'm so happy that we went through that journey. You know, you got to go through that kind of stuff to learn, to take it to the next song. You can be at the end of it and say, man, I wish I'd skipped that and started with all this knowledge, but you know, that's not how anything works. So
yeah, I always tell people, you know, this is it. You know, we always say when I get there, or when it gets done, this is it, like in the middle of it. And I've learned that a lot from both my mom and stepdad, who also are, musicians. You know, my mom was a singer. Unfortunately, she developed nodules on her vocal cords years ago, and she stopped singing. But my stepdad was also, you know, a band member, and he always he's like, oh, when I get there, he's like, you are, this is it. You know, this is it right here, right now. So in other words, trust all of that, like the process, the journey, you know, the struggles, you know, the you know, obviously the pandemic. So I wanted to ask you, Joshua, what's your favorite instrument?
Oh man. I mean, I would have to assume keyboards. I mean, I don't know. I think
being a singer, you know, being the vocalist is what do you prefer? Do you do both? So I mean, you play while you're singing. So I mean, but
yeah,
if you know, to choose one.
If I had to choose one, to play or to listen to?
To play.
To play, probably vocals.
Yeah, the voice.
I would. But it'd be like, it's interesting you said that about your mom. You know, I developed nodules on my vocal cords after my first tour, and that's why I had to switch up the singing style. So it being my favorite instrument, it's also my most concerning instrument. You know,
it's scary.
It's not like anything else. Like when you get done with a show, you have to try your best to pack that instrument away real softly, and then, you know, as you personally witnessed, you know, people want to talk to you, and the music is loud, and you don't ever want to be rude, and you have to talk to people. If I didn't talk to you, I wouldn't be here. So it's
I made you guys talk to me though.
But yeah, it's a strange thing. It's a strange instrument in that it's the you're the only member of the band that has their instrument in their body, and can be affected by weather, can be affected by food, can be affected by emotion. Oh, well, I guess other instruments can be affected by emotion, you know. And
I mean, my guitar's affected by food. If I spill
I was about to say
it gets really upset.
But so my favorite instrument, but by far the most complicated instrument I play.
Incredible. Well, you know, it's interesting because and only a friend would know this. I was like, I don't know what was going on with my voice. I honestly was panicking one day last week, and it was just like I kept coughing, you know, and I was like thinking like, oh my God, what was I coughing while I was performing? And I was just like, stop panicking. It's like, you're at home. Thinking of, but that's what I'm saying. That's what we go through, thinking like the uncontrollable stuff that happens. But it also made me realize, you're saying, well, you know, something that was going on, you weren't happy and you were stressing during that time too. So your voice was reacting, kind of like constricting itself, you know, and if that makes sense. Like, I was like, you know, like how something was dusty and near your throat, but it was acting like, it was like, literally, it's, you know, it's something you really have to protect and take note of with your emotions and your health when it comes to this gift, you know, this sound, this vocal box. So I appreciate you sharing that with me. Well, in closing, of course, because I know I could talk to you guys all night, I definitely want to say thank you just for making the time. You both, of course, have families and have things going on. And I just appreciate you.
No problem.
That we're both on the same time zone, which is a blessing, because I'm always seeing people in another country or in another state. So I was like, oh, I have a real 7.
I appreciate that.
A real 7 o'clock. So thank you again so much for taking the time. I want you guys to take everybody out and let them know where we can find you as far as your socials. And then also, of course, if you want to share anything that's coming up soon.
Sure.
And then, of course, also your platforms where the music can be found.
Absolutely. So you can find all of our stuff on all streaming platforms. You can search Silas Fermoy, and you will find the 2 latest singles, Just a Stone and Nighttime Our Time. Much of what I've shared today about my father and about his experience being a musician, and about ego and courage is in the song Just a Stone. That song is pretty much all about that relationship with my father and the courage to confront ego. And we will be playing in San Francisco it was August 26th, Phil? Does that sound right? Yeah, August 26th at Amado's.
Okay.
And Monique, you've seen us at the Makeout Room. Amado's is one of the favorite gigs we've ever played was at Amado's.
Oh my God.
So I think it's on the Mission, right, Phil?
Okay.
Is it?
Yes.
Yeah. So, and Monique, you have 2 guest list spots. If you want to come through, you are more than welcome. So you bring a friend and come and dance the night away.
Oh boy, you know who I'll be bringing on the
Oh, Sam Reed.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll need that dancing.
Sam Reed will dance for everybody, you know.
So
that's what we need. We want that.
Exactly. We'll be playing with a band called The Trims. And Phil, do you know the other band? I believe it's The Trims. And one second.
What time is showtime?
So showtime will be probably around 7. I should have this, but the other band is called Wolf. So it's us, Silas Fermoy, The Trims, and Wolf. And it's at Amado's in San Francisco.
Nice.
Phil, do you have showtime?
Sure do. I was able to search that email, so thanks for delaying.
Okay.
The doors will open at 7:30. The show is going to start at 8, and tickets are $15 in advance and $20 day of. And if you follow us on our socials, we will have ticket links as we get closer. And yeah, come on out. It's going to be a really fun show. It's a sweet little basement venue. Really cool vibe, great sound.
The sound is incredible, yeah. So
fantastic place. Yeah.
August 26th, show doors open at 7:30. Amado's.
Correct.
Perfect. Monique, thank you so much. It was such a blessing meeting you at the show, feeling all that love, like after we got off stage.
Who knew this was going to become this? Huh?
Exactly. So we appreciate it, Queen. You are building something here that I can't wait to see how this grows. I've watched some of your other episodes. And Andrew Jackson was the one that I really connected with. His music is really incredible, and I love some of the stuff he had to say. So I believe he said it in his video, but he came back and is watching you grow. And I think we're just gonna kind of watch each other grow from here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you are definitely connected, and you are a friend of the show. And you are definitely
thank you so much.
You're on my playlist. I mean, like I said, you know, Just a Stone is my one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's my one. Okay. So, if you are watching this, you have just witnessed greatness. Of course, you are watching, of course, the face behind the brand. The face behind the brand. I'm saying the band. I'm renaming the show. The face behind the band. The Face Behind the Brand, episode 134, Silas Fermoy. Go ahead and click that subscribe button if you haven't subscribed yet, so you can see and view more interviews just like this incredible band. And again, we appreciate you so much for watching. Stay tuned. Peace.
Thank you.
Thank you.